I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. This is the elevation protocol. Rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. This is the elevation protocol. Rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. This is the elevation protocol. Rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. My standards draw the line here. My standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls.
All right. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Hopefully, Steven, you got that notification, but we go give it a couple minutes, make sure that you know that we're live. So as we get things teed off, I want to remind you guys that we are live 7 nights a week, and we do not let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time. That's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe and hit those notification buttons. We're about 15, 20 minutes behind the scheduled time. But uh, See, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You turned the notifications on the app outside of the program where you got the push notifications. Yeah, that's what it's a multi-step process because when you don't want to be bothered, if you have do not disturb mode on, you're not gonna get the notification. So it is what it is. But yeah, we here. Um, and we're going to be sitting over here basically talking about opportunity cost today. Uh, but we're supposed to be talking about the difference between mortgages and investing, which is similar to whether or not you should pay off your credit cards first versus invest, or pay off your car note versus invest. We're going to be talking about the opportunity cost. Um, uh, and as we get in here, I want to make sure that you guys hit those notification buttons, but also mash the reaction buttons throughout the show tonight because that triggers the algorithm, and then the algorithm shows this much needed information to so many more people who could literally benefit from having common knowledge that isn't all too common anymore because we don't pay attention to this until somebody talks about it. So since I'm talking about it, now you guys can learn it and pass it on to your kids, your friends, your family members, and all this other stuff. Now, here we're live 7 nights a week, and what we start by doing is on Sundays we do questions and comments from the fans, which allows us to you guys ask me questions about y'all, what y'all got going on, what ifs, hypotheticals, and then I'll give y'all some much needed um, information on how to pull that off, depending on what it is. Because typically I focus on legal ways to help you make, save, and invest money, negotiate, and bargain your way into promotions and raises and everything on your jobs, and then negotiate and open lines of communication in your relationships, whether it's your romantic partner, your family, your friends, or your kids. So it is going to be an unorthodox position, but this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective. We do not like a red pill, blue pill, black pill situation, but if the shoe fits, wears it. So, ladies, there's a lot of times when I talk to y'all, if y'all don't want to hear it, I mean, it's not because I'm wrong, it's just because you don't want to hear it. But when I'm talking about, because this is to help the men become better men so that y'all can find better men when y'all decide to get with them. But in order for us to be willing to want to be better men, we got to have something to want to be better men for, because men strive to become better men, not just to be financially successful, but so that we can have a woman to share our life with. So we build our life up to become the valued man that a woman would want to be with so that we can start that legacy with that woman. So while men have to build themselves up to be better men, women have to build themselves up to be better partners for those men, right? Notice I didn't say that women have to build themselves up to be better women, because y'all are already fantastic. Y'all are better men than most men out here, but y'all have to learn how to be better partners for the men that you're looking for, because otherwise it's just not going to work for you, right? So then we have on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we talk about business and politics, where Monday we talk about different ways that politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. On Tuesdays, we talk about different ways to make money, save money, invest money, and budget money. Um, I did say I got to put quite a few shows up for Tuesday and Wednesdays over the next few weeks, but Wednesday, we talk about different countries around the world to live in and invest in. And some of them are good, some of them not so good, some of them somewhere in the middle. And when I find out unorthodox ways for you guys to invest in different countries, because there's plenty of ways outside of real estate to invest that are legal ways to invest where you're not going to get ripped off. And there are lower cost, lower buy-in investments that those of us that make less than 100,000, less than 50,000 can budget into our investment opportunities. So I come up with these uh, peer driven, peer reviewed, unorthodox ways for you to invest in things that low investment, low profit, but it is still a very beneficial way for you to make money for yourself. Because just like going into different countries and investing in their ability to renovate units, and then contracting into a percentage of the rent for an extended period of time so that you can get paid back with interest. You put down a certain quantity of money, now you're getting paid for decades to come because you extended their revenue stream. Now you don't have to own the property in countries that don't sell properties to foreigners. You just have to have an investment share in the property where the owner of the property gets paid for the property itself and has all of the legal responsibilities, but you as the investor get a percentage share of the profits, which now you don't have to do any work. You put your money up, you get money back. It's going to be like GTA San Andreas, where you just travel around collecting money. And with fintech situations, You don't just have to travel around and collect money when you're doing business with honest people. They can just upload your money on a regular basis. You don't have to show up, you know, and that basically sets you up for success because now you don't have to check in with people and be like, where's my money? Right. Now, after that, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, we're doing Friday night tonight. We talk to you guys about different ways to improve yourself. So, your self improvement, self development, relationship topics, networking, socialization, building your brand, and then discussing your promotions, raises, uh, retirement, and severance packages so that you can work your way into the company at the highest values that you could possibly get, and then work your way out of the company the same way, where you get the most out of everything that you do. After that, we give you guys all the reasons why you should be building your 20-year plan, working yourself into an area of success so that you can find a way to have that final number where you can retire where you need to retire at, where retirement doesn't have to be at a specific age. Retirement doesn't have to be at a specific dollar value in your brokerage account. Retirement happens either when you're satisfied with the money coming in to sustain your current standard of living, or your expected standard of living if that's higher than your current standard of living, or retirement comes when you physically can't do it anymore, or when you just emotionally and mentally can't tolerate it anymore. Those are like the three times. It's not about, the boss wants to fire you, so you want to retire. Nah, fuck this shit. Before the boss wanted to fire you, because typically bosses want to fire you because they don't like your attitude turned south because you didn't like whatever was going on in your job. So, soon as you stop liking being at work, soon as you stop liking going to work, that's the moment when it's time for you to hang your hat up for the last time and punch out for the last time before your boss doesn't like you anymore, right? So, if you've already built up a satisfactory retirement, you don't have to exercise it immediately. You can have a 20-year plan that you ride for 40 years. But when you do decide enough is enough, right? This is my last power bomb. This is my last clothesline. This is my last spear. This is my last ladder match. When you're done getting your ass whooped, that's when you can say, I'm done and I will never do this again. Right. And that's when your standard of living should be paid for the remainder of your days, medical treatment and everything. Right. And that's what we want to get into. So today, we're going to be talking about the difference between paying off your mortgage or investing into a brokerage account, or other scenarios where you can invest and make you some money. And we're going to be doing a deep dive analysis today. And I just want to start off by letting you guys know that I know we've all been told that paying off your home is the ultimate symbol of financial success. And a lot of us have been told, just pay down all of your debt, just get rid of all of your debt. That's the best thing for you to do. And it is a very good thing to do in comparison to leaving the debt linger. We understand that it's the American dream fulfilled when we own our own house. A paid for house is what we're taught that is the final brick in your fortress of financial security. But here's the uncomfortable question most people never get around to asking: what did it actually cost you to get there? What if I told you that every extra payment you send to the bank isn't buying your freedom, but actually a trap that could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential wealth? What if that conventional wisdom from our parents, our grandparents, our great great grandparents isn't just outdated, but dangerously wrong in today's economy? By the end of this, you'll understand the hidden financial gain the wealthy play with your debt. You'll stop seeing your mortgage as a monster to be slain and start seeing it as one of the most powerful wealth building tools that you'll ever get your hands on. And you'll know why keeping your mortgage might just be the smartest financial decision that you'll ever make. We've been doing this for a long time, analyzing how real wealth is built versus how people are told to build it. And I can tell you, there are two very different games being played. Paying off your house early often puts you in the wrong playing field. I was talking to you before, Stephen, when we were talking about paying off your credit cards versus investing into your brokerage account. You were telling me about you were trying to hurry up and pay off your car. The psychological comfort that you have of no longer owing for certain things makes you feel like $1 million. It really does. And that's what everybody strives for, is to no longer have that stress on their plate that they owe something to somebody for an asset that they need, like a car, because it whenever you miss a payment, they'll repossess it, even if it's the last payment, right? So you want to pay that off psychologically as soon as possible so that you now have the peace of mind that you own your shit and it's never going to go anywhere. And I respect that. But just like same thing with the credit cards that we was talking about, I was doing some calculations and I was like, man, wait, think about this opportunity cost. We're going to get down to that later tonight, but I want to talk about it real quick at the top of the hour too. Say you have hypothetically $5,000 line of credit and you put hypothetically about $3,000 worth of debt on it, a little over half, right? Now, you want to start building your credit by reducing your debt, but you also want to start expanding on your brokerage account. Let's say you have a brokerage account with, say, $5,000 in it, right? And your credit card debt is going to charge you a premium. Let's say it charges you like $25 a month, for a total of almost $250 a year, right? Maybe a little bit more than that. But your brokerage account is also going to be giving you roughly about $20 to $30 a month every month, somewhere between $200 to $300 a year for the first year. The opportunity cost is where you decide what to do. Picture this. If you have a little bit of a balance there that you can play with, a little bit of available line of credit. Imagine you have, say, $500 worth of revolving debt that comes in: light bill, water bill, gas bill, phone bill, maybe even a car insurance payment that happens on a regular basis. And it's roughly about 500 bucks. If you put that on that credit card, it brings it from 3,000 to $3,500, and then you put 200 or more dollars down on it, not all of the extra money you have, just 200 or $400 more than what you put on the card. If you put up 500, you put up 7 or 800, you're putting an extra 2 or $300 down on the debt, which brings down the original principal. But here's the thing: in your billing cycle, the goal is to exceed the minimum payment on your credit card so that you don't have to worry about late payments. Then you want to put extra money down to pay down a debt. Now, you can do it all in one payment, or you can do it in pieces where you pay twice a month. Once right after the bill rolls over, and once a few days to a week before the billing cycle ends. Either way you go, because that's what I would do. I would do it twice a month. Once right before the bill, put a lot of money down on it, which gives me the ability to get a lot of money to put down on it. And then once right after the bill, to make sure that I exceed the minimum payment. If they want me to give $20, I'll give them 30. If they want me to give them $60, I'll give them 70. But after that, because now I made sure that the one monthly payment is paid for. After that, then I put extra money down. I still end up putting about $6, 600, 700, $800 down on the card, but I made sure I wasn't late on my payment, because you can't control when your paycheck gets here, right? So, um, every month your billing cycle ends $200 to $300 less. Every month your interest rates are going to have a smaller amount due. Every month that 25 or $30 a month is going to go down to 25 to 20 to 15 to 10. Your brokerage account is going to do the exact opposite. Your brokerage account, you're going to put maybe $300, $400 a month in your brokerage account, because everything's on your credit card. So outside of your rent or your mortgage, there's nothing else that you have to pay for. So everything else goes onto your brokerage account. The more money you put onto your brokerage account, the more money you're getting off of your brokerage account. You don't need the money coming off of your brokerage account, so you're reinvesting the money back into your brokerage account. In that dynamic, your $30 a month turns into 40, 50, 75, 100, 200, right? Within the first 12 to 18 months, you're now making more money off of your brokerage account than what you have to pay on your credit cards. As your credit cards go from having a $5,000 line of credit with a $3,000 balance on it, all the way down to having no debt, and your brokerage account going from $5,000 worth of brokerage up to $10,000 worth of brokerage money, your monthly payment is going to be significantly higher than your credit card level, cost of doing business, right? Over the years, you'll now have a revolving line of credit where you're going to put money onto your credit card right after the bill is over, right after the bill rolls over. Everything that you wanted to spend in cash, you would put it on the credit card for the amount of regular utility bills that you would have otherwise paid for. Then you're going to just pay it all the way down to like $2. And now every month you have a $2 bank statement that is due on your credit card. And then you pay that $2 a few days after the bill rolls over. However, on your brokerage account, everything else is on your brokerage account outside of paying your rent. Now, your brokerage account is exponentially growing. Your debt stays low. You're showing monthly payments. You're showing good status. You are now able to apply for higher credit cards. American Express takes you at 680 if you haven't had a bankruptcy in the last 5 years and you've had consistent on time payments for no less than 2 years, which means that if you have a 680 or a 690 credit score, you can get you a $25,000 unsecured credit card from American Express because you've been using your card this whole time, just rolling over credit. At the same time, you're building your brokerage account. Now, that's that opportunity cost. The money you didn't make on your brokerage account because you put your whole paycheck on your credit card. Yeah, you paid your credit card down faster, but you lost out on 2 or 3 months worth of building up your brokerage account. That's the difference. That's what people don't think about, don't pay attention to. And that's what we're going to be discussing right now with mortgages versus investment properties. So let's get right into it. Should you pay your mortgage off early, or should you make that extra payment every year or throw a few $100s at your principal each month? The immediate knee jerk reaction, fueled by a lifetime of what we've been told, is of course, get out of debt fast as possible, right? But that's a simple yes or no answer to a question with layers of complexity. It's like asking a doctor if you should take a pill without telling me your symptoms. The right answer depends entirely on you, your goals, and most importantly, the numbers involved. So today we're going to dismantle this sacred cow of personal finance. So for those of you who don't like sacrificing cows, bear with me. It's going to be worth your wait. We're going to look past the emotional satisfaction of being debt free, and we're going to get into the cold, hard math of opportunity cost, inflation, and liquidity. Because the biggest financial mistake millions of smart, responsible homeowners are making is treating their mortgage like an emergency they need to escape instead of an asset that they need to manage. So let's paint a picture. It's a story that we all know, one that's woven into the fabric of culture, especially our culture. The story of responsible homeownership. If we have a, a very prudent person, let's call her Prudent Penny. We got the Karen is for giving us hell and damnation. Prudent Penny, the one that's really trying to get it done. Let's say she buys a sensible home with a 30-year mortgage. And when I say a sensible home, we're not talking about a 3-story, 10-bedroom, 5-car garage on 20 acres with a gate, electric gate, and a water fountain in the front. When we talk about a sensible home, we're talking about a regular 1 or 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, depending on the size of your family. And here we actually can go a little bit deeper. The size house that you need should be dependent upon the number of people in the house. So if you live alone, you should have 2 rooms and a bathroom. Why 2 rooms and a bathroom? Because one room is your room and the other room is your home office. If you've got a partner, still 2 rooms because both of you live in one room and you work in the other room. If you've got a partner and kids, now you're going to have two and 3 rooms. Sometimes you're going to have 3 rooms because the kid's going to have their own room. You're going to have your own room with your partner, and then you're going to have a home office scenario. 2 boys to a room, 2 girls to a room. Never put a boy and a girl in the same room, which means that if you have one boy, 1 girl, that is 2 rooms for the kids, 1 room for the parents, and 1 extra room for the home office. That's 4 bedrooms. 2 adults, 2 kids, 5 bedroom, right? That's how you start talking about sensible, right? If you are living by yourself and you got 5 rooms, that's not sensible. And likewise, if you're living with 3 kids and you've only got 2 rooms, that's not sensible. Okay. So look at a sensible home with a 30-year mortgage. And from day one, uh, Prudent Penny is determined to beat the bank at their own game. So she's working hard, living frugally, and every time she gets a small bonus or a tax refund, she throws it right at her mortgage principal. She tells her friends, I'm making an extra payment a year. And they nod in admiration. Good for you. You know, her parents are proud. She's sacrificing today for a secure tomorrow. She even prints out the amortization schedules, highlighting the rows and watching which satisfaction as the payoff date creeps closer and closer together. From the date it was due to the date that you no longer owe anything. Years go by, while her friends are taking vacations or investing in the stock market, Penny is laser focused. Finally, the day comes, she's in her late 40s and makes the final payment. The bank sends her the deed. She holds it in her hands like the WWE champion, a symbol of her discipline. She is completely 100% then free. She owns her home outright. And by every traditional matrix, she's supposed to have won the game. But then life happens. A few years later, the economy hits a rough patch. Penny's company has to downsize, and her job is eliminated. At the same time, her aging father has a medical emergency with staggering out of pocket costs. Suddenly, Penny, a responsible homeowner with a paid for house, finds herself in a terrifying position. Her entire net worth, the sum total of her life savings and discipline, is locked inside the 4 walls of her house. She has no debt, but she also has no cash either. No savings, no brokerage account, no alternatives. So she's what's known as house rich, cash poor, which is the opposite of what most men are these days that are riding around with flashy cars, where they're car rich and house poor, or car rich and everything poor. Now, she can't pay for her father's medical bills with a bedroom, and she can't buy groceries with her beautiful landscaping. She goes back to the bank, the same one that she proudly paid off the house with, and asks for a home equity line of credit. But now, with no job, the bank sees her as a risk and denies her application. So her only option is to sell the house. But in a weak market, selling quickly means accepting a price far below what she knows the house is worth, and a lot of times far below what she put into the house. She's forced to sell her greatest asset at the worst possible time, all because she had no liquidity, right? He said, all I need is a 1 room shack until I get married and have kids. Right now, 1 room does the trick. I agree with you part ways. You need 1 room house, fully renovated with no repairs required, that you can maintain until you find you a partner that is worthy of you buying a bigger house and then renting out the first house and having that first house as a second income, and then using that bigger house to have kids. I wouldn't do a shack, but I understand what you meant when you said 1 room shack. I wouldn't do a shack because a shack is going to be a fixer upper and it's going to have a low monetary value. A house that's been fully renovated that doesn't have damage that needs to be repaired, is a house that you can take a larger, because the after repair value or the market value of the property is going to be where the equity lies in the house. When you take out 50% of the value of the house, if you have a one room house that's worth 200 or $150,000 for a one bedroom house, that's expensive. But if you had that, you could take $75,000 out and put that down on a $500,000 house. If you had a house that was worth $100,000, a one bedroom house that was worth $100,000, because of the after repair value or the actual market value of the house, where you can then take $50,000 out. Most houses only require you to take twenty to $30,000 out to buy a single family house in the first place. Now you can mortgage the house that you're living in as a single man in a single room house, and then use that house as a rental property to pay off the mortgage, and then you now move into, and you could take out a 30-year mortgage if you take out like a 55 or $60,000 mortgage, because anything over 50,000 is going to be more than 15 years. You do that, now you buy you a brand new house. The first house is collateral towards the second house, but the tenant that is now living in the first house pays for the mortgage. You don't have to pay for the mortgage, you pay for the house, lights, water, whatever, but the mortgage is paid for by the tenant. So what say your mortgage, um, after you borrow against the stone, leverage this house for the other house, the mortgage might be 1,500 a month. The tenant's paying rent 1,800 or $2,000 a month. You don't got to pay for shit. Both of your houses is covered by the tenant that stays there. But that's only going to happen if the house has value. If you got you a rundown piece of nothing, because men are going to switch to survival mode, and we will live in a three-wall house where the fourth wall is missing, because all we need is a roof. We don't even need the walls. We'll back the car up and block the wind from the other direction and just make it work. We'll make it work, but you don't have equity in making it work, right? No, the tenant will pay for their own electric, water, and garbage. I was saying that if you mortgage the first house or use the first house as collateral to buy the second house is going to be your primary living situation, and then your first house will pay for the mortgage that is tied to both houses. That's what I was saying, which is feasible in most situations. I mean, if you get the house with the right kind of value in it, it's feasible. But that's why I say, it's probably not a good idea to get a beater upper, like one of them houses that's 25% of it caught on fire. So you're staying on the 25% of it that doesn't have fire damage on it. That's not good for you. You're going to need 50 grand just to make it livable. We'll live in a car. Hey, mama always said, if you got a car, you got a home. And then you got a home with a sunroof or a moon roof in it, so you can open the top and get the breeze in and don't have to worry about the mosquitoes coming to get to you. Yeah. Now, the uh the story or version of this situation with Prudent Penny plays out all at the same time. And it plays out all the time with a lot of people. This is going to be the quiet, devastating result of a financial strategy that prioritizes the feeling of security over the reality of it, right? Prudent Penny did everything that she was told to do, and it was right. And yet she ended up in a financial nightmare. Her mistake wasn't paying her bills, it was paying them too fast without understanding the hidden cost behind it. Now, Penny's story is a perfect example of two key financial concepts that are almost completely ignored in the conversations about mortgage: dead equity and opportunity cost. So let's start with the dead equity. When you make an extra payment on your mortgage, that money doesn't just vanish. It turns from a liquid asset, cash, into home equity. Equity is the portion of your home that you own. And that sounds great to a lot of people. And it is part of your net worth. But here's the crucial part: it's productive, illiquid equity. It's dead equity. So imagine you run a business and you have a superstar employee. Now, imagine taking that employee, locking them in a storage closet and telling them to just sit there for 20 years. Like Reverend Sapp that said, we ain't going nowhere until we get this money. Held what, 25,000 some odd people in the congregation hostage till they put up that money. Still your employee, technically, but are they doing anything for you? Generating revenue? Innovating anything? No. They're dead weight. They're in a closet. They're not doing anything. And that's exactly what you do with your money when you aggressively pay down loan interest mortgages. You are taking your most productive asset, your capital, and locking it away where it can't work. Home equity doesn't earn dividends. It doesn't generate interest. It doesn't compound. It just sits there. Now, the only way to get that money out is going to be to sell your home or borrow against it. Both processes are slow, expensive, and often difficult, especially when you need the money the most and you're not properly prepared to request it. It's not a liquid asset. You can't tap an app on your phone and just have your home equity in your bank account in 2 days. Now, with stocks, you can. That's the difference. Michael says, how much for the house? Will you take a check? Yeah, a lot of people are going to have to short sell it because not only so first and foremost, when in this dynamic right here, it with Prudent Penny, she needs money now. She doesn't have a job. She's trying to take care of her family. One of the things when I talk to you guys about how to interact with your family members and not make unnecessary emotional decisions that sacrifices yourself for the sake of your family members because you can't continue to provide for them if you sacrifice yourself because the provider has been crucified and is not going to resurrect after 3 days. So you want to make sure that you protect the provider more than the provider protects the dependents because the provider can only provide until the provider has been sacrificed to the magnitude where the provider can no longer recover. So, in this dynamic, the provider no longer can provide, the family is in need, the provider has to make a sacrifice. Sacrifices you don't recover from. That's why they're called a sacrifice. It's not a temporary inconvenience, it's a catastrophic life change. So, this once the sacrifice happens, you put the house up for sale. Your boy comes up and says, will you take cash or a check? Fact is, if I've got cash on hand to buy your property and you need money now, you don't have time to wait for a better offer. You will take whatever I'm going to offer you because you will get the money now. The closer you get to the date that you have to spend that money, the less money you're willing to accept in order to get that money so that you can pay off whatever it is that you're trying to pay off. Is provider died. Well, that's going to end up being a thing. The provider will end up either dying, not sometimes the provider will die, but sometimes the provider doesn't die. Sometimes the provider just no longer has the ability to provide. They've exhausted all of their resources. They borrowed against a stone. Now they're in bankruptcy. Now they're liquidating their assets. Now they have more debt than they have income. They no longer have any extra money to buy a second plate of food to put on a table to be able to feed you when you're hungry because they don't have enough anymore. They owe more than they make, and now your provider can't provide, right? That's going to be one of those situations. So you got to protect the provider more than the provider has to protect the dependents. Poor girl, I know because a lot of us get misguided. We get sent down the wrong rabbit hole accidentally. Now, let's connect this to an even more powerful idea, which is opportunity cost. He said my pawn shop is open, but my man, all she got is a house. So let's dial it before we start talking about opportunity cost. Let's spin back over to she lost her job. She's got the house. She needs money to pay for lights, water, phone bill, car insurance, stuff like that. Assuming that she owns her own car and she doesn't have a car note that she has to pay for, which is even more expensive. Now she has a medical bill for her family member. There isn't enough stuff in the house that you can sell at a pawn shop to cover medical expenses for a family member. There isn't enough stuff in your house that you can sell at a, or lend to a pawn shop to cover 2 or 3 months worth of standard of living, especially when your standard of living is covering like $3,000 a month worth of standard of living. Yeah, the opportunity is knocking. I'll hold the note. I know exactly what you're talking about. They're gonna hold the note of that damn car. They're not gonna hold the note of the house. You're gonna sell that house. You're gonna put a lien on that house. And then the problem with that is that at a pawn shop, they're going to give you 30 to 90 days or so to give them that money back, or they're going to seize the asset. At least with a bank, you got a few years if you work out the right project, around the right contract. So what she would have to do is take her car to the pawn shop, hold the deed, or go to a title loan place and hold the deed, where hopefully she has a type of car that has a clear deed to it so that she can get a title loan on the car so that she can then use that car so that she can go and pay for some other stuff. Hopefully, she has a car with enough equity in it where even if she has a mortgage, she can remortgage the car and get back money off of remortgaging the car, where she can then take that money and put it towards some shit. But then she's still got a larger car note to pay for, right? Because the value of the car is going to go down too. But if she don't leverage her car to get collateral, and then when you're trying to leverage your assets to get capital, you're still going to want to make sure that you got a source of income to pay. She doesn't have a savings account. She doesn't have a brokerage account. All she's got is a house. If she can put a lien on the house, she can put a lien. You can put a lien on the house if you want to, but like okay, so here's the deal. You can put a let's say you put a mechanics lien on your own house, and then if you put a mechanics lien on your own house, you have to pay off your own lien before you can sell your own house to anybody else, but it doesn't put money in your pocket. If you put a lien on the house where you like title loan out your house to a pawn shop or some shit like that, they own a share of your house until you pay them back. If you don't give them the money back or start making reasonable payments within a period of time, she's out of a job, they can then foreclose on your house or a second mortgage. Now, second mortgage again, fantastic idea, but the second mortgage comes with the same problem as taking out the first mortgage. Because if you paid off the first mortgage, you go to try to take out a second mortgage, but you're telling the bank, I no longer have a job. I have an asset and I don't have an income and I don't have savings. That's where the problem comes in at. I don't have another source of income. I have no other way to pay off this loan besides selling this house. That's what puts her in the position of having to sell the house because there isn't any other income. You're borrowing the money to go take care of a medical expense. If you were borrowing the money to renovate the house and sell the house, yeah, they'll do that because they can lean on the house so that when you sell the house, she can take the money off of the house, pay off the bank, and then keep the difference. But when she's borrowing money from the bank, leveraging the house as collateral so that she can use the money from the bank to go and pay for a medical bill, she's not selling the house. That makes her high risk. So the second mortgage doesn't help. They're not going to accept her because she doesn't have an income. Pawn shops, boy, pawn shops is gonna make a killing on two sides of the fence with that because everybody that can't afford their car no more, they got a title to it, putting their car up at the pawn shop. You got pawn shops with more cars on it than a used car dealership. Then the pawn shops are selling bicycles like a son of a bitch for $25 a bike. You can sell me your car, I'll give you a bike, then I'm gonna put your car for sale. Pawn shops is killing it right now, bro. And the gas prices is not gonna go down. 'Cause we got until next week. Today's Friday. We got till next week Wednesday. And if we don't hear some good news by Wednesday night, come Thursday morning, gas prices is going back up again. If you were looking at the stock, Steven, you seen that Prospect Capital started going up in value because they weren't at war right now. Watch when they start dropping bombs on Thursday and Friday. Watch it go right back down to like 245, $2.45 a share. You're going to be right back up at 21.4% interest. Ellington Residential is right at 20.8. Orchid Island is right at 19.86. I'm trying to told you because they out there blowing shit up. Real estate investment trusts are offering 20%. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna buy as much of it as I can so that I'm locked in on the good rates when the value of these stocks start going back up. He said, Happy Friday. Definitely, definitely. Enjoy it while you still can. Because when your ass got to go to work, it ain't going to be as cheap as it used to be. Now let's get into this opportunity cost. In economics, opportunity cost is the value of what you give up when you make a decision. If you have an extra $500 and you spend it on a fancy dinner, the opportunity cost isn't just the $500, it's the stock share you could have bought instead. Like I tell you guys about how, a pack of cigarettes might be $15 and Ellington Residential is $4.55 a share. You could buy 3 shares of Ellington Residential. Prospect Capital is like $2.45 a share. You can buy, shoot, for less than $3 a share, like 5 shares of that one for a pack of cigarettes. The opportunity cost there is enormous, right? That's what we're talking about. When you make an extra $500 payment on your mortgage, you're making a choice. You're choosing to get a guaranteed risk free return equal to your mortgage's interest rate. If your rate is 6%, you're effectively earning 6% on that $500 because you're avoiding the future interest on that $500. And a guaranteed 6% return isn't bad at all in comparison to some investment opportunities. But here's the $1 billion question. What was the opportunity cost? What could that $500 have done if you hadn't locked it in the storage closet next to your most valuable employee, locked it in your home's equity? This is where the wealthy think differently. They don't see debt as a moral failure, they see it as a tool. A long term fixed rate mortgage is cheap money. So let's uh, uh, recognize how this is going to let them control a larger appreciating asset, which is the house, with a little of their own money, freeing up the rest of their cash to go out and work for them. So try understanding that if they can borrow money at 5% or 6% and invest it to earn 8% or 10% over the long run, they capture the difference. That spread, compounded over decades, is how real wealth is built. Is that I'm trying to get this stash account going. It's taking longer than I wanted, as I can get it. But that's why I told you when I first sent you the link like a month and a half ago. I was like, just go ahead and get it. Go ahead and get it started. Put like $5 up there, and then whenever you feel like getting to it, it'll already be there. Remember I told you that. Sometimes I don't like being an I told you so kind of guy, but this is why I told you back then. Is free to do. You didn't have to pay for the membership at all. All you had to do was link your account, get it authorizable to make the first transaction, and then wait until you felt comfortable with making the first transaction. If you would have pushed it at that time to where whenever you felt like it, you could have just put some money up there, or if you would have just put $5 or $10 up there at that time a month or two ago, today you'd be like, fuck that, bro. I just dropped $1,000 in that bitch. I just said, but let's go, wow, woo, stock market, you know. But you had to get comfortable with it first. You had to pay down some debt. You had to get your peace of mind together before you started doing it. I'm gonna tell you, I felt what last year the same way you felt this year. And I have had that account since 2006, I think. But remember, I told you I had just found a brokerage account, not a brokerage account, Coinbase. I got money in Coinbase from 2022 that I forgot all about. I had started the Stash app way back before that when Stash first came out. And then I let it lock up because I wasn't using it. Just turned off the membership, let it lock up. So I had to reactivate a new account. And the same process that you're going through, I had to go through. I had to keep checking my account every day for the first 7 days. And it takes 7 to 10 days for the two transactions to pop up. And then after they pop up and you key them in, Then it takes 3 to 5 days for the transfer to go from your bank to their bank before they allow you to start investing. So it's almost like a 2.5, 3 week process to get the ball rolling, right? And that's why I was telling you, hey, get started now because it's time consuming. But once they get used to taking money out of your account, they start advancing you money. You say, hey, I'm about to take $1,000 and put it into this account. They'll just give you $1,000 right now because they know that it's going to come out of your account and go to theirs. They're not even going to argue with you about it, you know? So you'll have it to invest sooner to allow you to make in the moment transactions and prevent that long 3 to 5 day delay because they're going to get their money out of your account regardless. The more times they tap into your account without a problem, the quicker they front you the cash. And then when they know that you're putting money back up, if you were doing a dividend rotation strategy with stash, they free up your money in 24 hours. If I buy a stock on Friday, sell it on Monday, the money clear on Tuesday, I could buy another stock on Wednesday. I'm telling you, buy and hold because while everything is going down, because of the conflict, the companies aren't going to go out of business. But while they're going down, you don't want to sell while it's down. You want to sell while it's up. So you want to keep buying the lower it gets, so that once it reaches its baseline and starts going back up, you're going to start experiencing growth profits and dividends. That's the key there. You want to get the growth profits and the dividends. Then if you want to shave a little off the top, hedge the top, and then reinvest it back in when the market goes back down. Because you sell when it goes up, and then when you see it dip, then you want to buy back in when it dips. He said the book of the week, The Philosophy of Money. Special shout out to Michael. Michael be coming up with some books. If I bought each book that he mentioned on, I would have a whole collection of real books behind me instead of just a collecting curtain. He said, buy and hold, y'all. Double the growth. Now, by paying off your mortgage early, you are voluntarily giving up that tool of being able to have the opportunity cost of investing somewhere else. You're choosing the small generated return over the potentially much larger one available elsewhere. That's the opportunity cost. And as we're about to see, it can add up to hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars over time. Yeah, you would have some real books. Because I will build a collection. I ain't building a collection right now because the money it costs to buy these books is money I could be investing on, showing you guys the real way to make money for you. I want to make the money first and then take the interest off the money and then buy the books. You be like, dang, he got a collection of investment books. Yeah, I got that with my profits from investing. So you guys got to understand debt equity and opportunity cost can feel abstract. So let's make it real. Let's forget the emotions and just look at the cold, hard, unforgiving numbers. The spreadsheet doesn't care about your feelings, it only cares about the math. So let us realistically use a scenario. Imagine a homeowner. We'll call him Calculating Carl because men know how to spend money. Carl has a $400,000 30-year fixed rate mortgage at about 6.5%, which is what we usually see right now in the market, anywhere between 6.8 and 6.1. So 6.5%, that's what we're experiencing right now in April of 2026. His monthly principal and interest payment is about $2,528. If he just makes that payment for 30 years, he will pay a staggering $510,000 in interest. Carl is a good saver and has an extra $500 a month to spend. He faces the classic dilemma: pay down the mortgage or invest it. Path A, guaranteed return of paying down the mortgage early. First, let's look at how that happens. If he adds an extra $500 to his mortgage payment every month, his new payment is $3,028. The result is genuinely impressive. By doing this, Carl will pay off his entire 30-year mortgage in just over 18 years, shaving off nearly 12 years of payments. The interest savings are massive. Instead of paying 510,000 in total interest, he'll only pay about 250,000. That's a direct savings of $260,000. So let's be clear, that $260,000 savings is his return on investment. By consistently putting an extra $500 a month into his house, he generates a return of about $260,000. This is the same as getting a guaranteed risk free 6.5% annual return. If you could find a government bond that guarantees a 6.5% return with zero risk, people would be lining up and down a block for it. They're at like 4.1% or 3.3% right now. And this is the powerful argument for paying down your mortgage, which is what Michael's like, pay down that mortgage. Either way, it's an investment. I'm about to show you the difference. Is there a whole new meaning of investment? Not capping, bro. It's a whole new meaning. It's a whole new meaning. I should write a book about this. I should be taking all of the information that I'm talking to y'all about and collaborate this stuff into a massive collection of ebooks. Eventually, I'm gonna end up doing it. How to not be broke, how to tax your bitch, how to profit off your kids. Michael says, even though a house is a reliable until paid. Oh, yeah, it is a reliable asset until it's paid. Now, path B is going to be the potential return on investment that not too many people think about. So remember, every decision has an opportunity cost. So what would be the alternative? Yeah. I kind of figured that. Reliable until paid. So let's rewind it. Carl has the same mortgage, but this time instead of sending the extra $500 to the bank, he invested in a simple, low-cost S&P 500 fund, which is way lower than the portfolio, uh, the high engine portfolio, the high octane investment portfolio that I gave you guys in the membership. And I gave you two of them because I gave you one that was a high octane engine and then a high octane plus growth engine portfolio. I'll give you two of them in the membership. Because the ones that I gave you in a membership are looking at between 12 and 18% interest, which is more than this. But the S&P 500 is standard and it gives you around 10% on a regular basis confidently. Now, using this 10% value, this is going to be a crucial idea because this return is not guaranteed. It's going to be volatile. Some years is up to 25%, some years is down 20%, but over the long stretch, 10, 20, 30 years, the power of the economy has driven this average return. So if Carl invests $500 every single month for the same 18 years, it would have taken him to pay off his mortgage. What does his portfolio look like after 18 years? Using a compound interest calculator and a conservative 8% average annual return over taxation, this is going to be below the historical average, though. His portfolio would be worth about $253,000. Now, understandably, if we would have been doing this calculation with the 12 or 13% growth rate that we would have had minus taxation and looking at that average 10% return, it would have been slightly higher, closer to 300,000. But at a 10% average return, it would have been worth over $302,000 specifically, right? And here's the funny part. I did this calculation too. I didn't even notice this. At the 12% return, where if we were doing it at the rate that we're getting off of my brokerage account, his portfolio, putting $500 a month away for 18 years, would be worth over $380,000. So the side by side comparison, after we put these two choices next to each other, pay off the mortgage early Carl saves a guaranteed $260,000 in interest. After 18 years, he has a paid for house and a zero debt balance. He is financially solid. Path two, he invests the money. He still pays the mortgage for the full 30 years, but at the same time, the 18-year mark, he has an investment portfolio worth $302,000 at 10%, or let's say $380,000 at the 12% that we're using with the investment portfolio that I talked about. Which one do you think is better? He said, is the economy on the brink of collapsing due to the Iran conflict? No, the economy is not on the brink of collapsing due to the Iranian conflict. As it stands right now, the market dips is about the same as the market dips that happened when the government shut down between October and December. The market is not on the brink of collapse. Actually, this type of stuff fuels the financially challenged individuals' motivation to be successful, because if you invest now while the good stocks are low, like DHT Holdings, um, International Seaway, those are the oil tankers that everybody's fighting over. If you buy into those motherfuckers now, while the tankers ain't able to sail nowhere, the stock is low. When the motherfuckers start sailing and 20% of the damn oil reserves start flowing all over the place, DHT Holdings is going to skyrocket. International Seaway is going to skyrocket. Zim stock is shipping containers. I'm not talking about shipping containers. I'm talking about oil containers. You know what I mean? That's a whole different idea. We was talking about real estate investment trusts, renters. While the renters are off to war, the market is lower. But when the renters come back home and start paying their rent, the market goes back up a little bit, right? Same thing. The government is currently still shut down, partially shut down. So while we're at war, with some tenants off to war, some tenants are not getting paid and still working. That is two hits on real estate investment trusts. But the best part about it is that if you're buying into it now, while both of those things are in chaos, once the budget starts coming back out for DHS employees and the troops come back home from blowing up Iran, real estate investment trust shares are going to go up. Stocks are still going to get paid the same quantity of dividends as long as they don't cut the shares, but the stock is going to, so you're going to experience the growth. So you want to get in now while it's at the 20% mark, 21% mark, so that when it goes up, you are grandfathered in to the best values. He says live in a house for 6 months, then rent it out, let the renter pay the mortgage, and at the same time, pay also you pay also on the mortgage, and your new job is a trucker. Well, the first thing you'd have to do is you'd have to get you a CDL license. Then you'd have to get you a job as a trucker. Then, since you're going to live out of the truck that you work in, so you want to get you a really big rig. Once you do that, then you rent out your house to somebody who's going to pay your rent. And that would be a fantastic job because you don't live there anymore. And the two of y'all will pay down on the same house. And then by the time you finish with that, you have all this extra house. And then, you can still be a trucker. And by the time you quit being a trucker, you should stack up enough cash to not have to worry about where your money's going to come from. But even though, but in doing it the way you're talking about doing it, if the homeowner and the tenant is paying down the house, you're paying off the house for 8 years, and the house is paid off. But opportunity cost, if you rented that house out and let the tenant pay on the mortgage, and then you take the whole $2,500 mortgage that you would have paid and put that into a brokerage account. You imagine that if $500 a month would have gotten you in 18 years, 200 something thousand dollars, then you can imagine that 2,500 a month for a 10 years, let's say 10 years or so, would be putting you well over half a million to $750,000 worth of money in a brokerage account, where you still have 20 years left on the mortgage after 10 years. Your tenant stayed there for the last 10 years, just paying a little over the mortgage with enough money to cover repairs. But all of your money went onto your brokerage account and getting more money off of your money, because the house is doing 6%, 6.5%, and the brokerage account is giving you back double in interest rates. Putting it in a brokerage account, even while you're being a trucker, is still more beneficial to you than putting it all on the house. Yeah, you got more equity. So let's say you need to replace your truck. you can leverage your house to buy you another rig. But let's say you borrow against the $500,000 worth of money in your brokerage account and buy that same rig cash up front. Your brokerage account can pay on the dividends, or your brokerage account can use the dividends to pay on the line of credit, and your truck can earn income to add to the principal. The brokerage account is still a better way to go than paying off the mortgage first before investing in yourself. Utilizing the 10% investing strategy would create $42,000 more wealth with $302,000 at 10% versus $260,000 putting it into the house. If you were getting a 380 something thousand dollars from the 12% that I'm talking about, you would have actually made $120,000 more wealth in the same period of time than you would have by dumping all the money into the house. And if he left that portfolio to grow to the end of the 30-year mortgage, it would be worth over $1 million, 1.5, almost $2 million. This is the staggering power of the opportunity cost. The wealth that he could have built as investing into the brokerage account becomes far greater than the interest that he did save by paying down the house faster. Oh, there's lots of ways to create wealth. There's no one way to do it. I do not have the best and surefire guaranteed way for anyone to get better at investing at anything. What I have is an alternative, and that alternative helps broke folks that live from paycheck to paycheck start somewhere and get somewhere better in a shorter period of time than what it is to drop money into the savings account and wait for a better future to start investing in your future. Just bringing to light that there's more than one way to get it done, and I'm always looking for another way. But I tell people who don't have patience, because you can always invest in gold and wait till that shit becomes valuable, right? But I tell people who don't have patience, throw it into a brokerage account. You will see the results faster, and those results will motivate you to invest in yourself more often, right? Now, this is going to bring us to the single most important factor, your mortgage interest rate. The math that we just did for a 6.5% rate, where the decision is genuinely debatable. But what if your rate is different? This is going to be where the choice gets much clearer. I know savings accounts are a poor choice, but that's what we were taught. Get a checking account so that you can get direct deposit from your job, and then put your savings into your savings account at 0.04% interest, which is 0.0064. And if you don't know what that means, it is 6/10 of a penny. Um, how do we calculate that? 6/10 of a penny. Uh, um, that would be $10 for 6 cents. That's how you would calculate that. That is close to, because it's 0.0064 per dollar. So yeah, it'd be, no, actually, I stand corrected. It would be 6 cents for every um six 6 cents for every $100. That's how it would be calculated. 6 cents for every $100, which isn't a lot of money. So for like $1,000, that'd be like 60 cents a year. Now, a year. For $10,000, it might be $6. For $100,000, it might be $60 for the year. Yeah, It's less than a penny per dollar. It's far less than a penny per dollar, because I'm going to type it in so that y'all can see what I'm talking about. It is 0.064% is what the interest rate is, more or less in the market right now, which is in fact 0.0064 cents on the dollar. That's what the money looks like, right? So that's per dollar, right? So you would need, yeah, uh, $10 to see 6 cents, $100 to see six. So it's very low interest rate, not worth doing. And that's before taxation. That's before opportunity cost because if you make more than $10 a year, the government comes looking for their cut, right? So that it's not worth doing. But that's why I tell everybody that there's another way to do it. So your rule of thumb here, if your rate is lower, say below 4.5%, the case for investing becomes overwhelming because a guaranteed 4% return from a mortgage payoff just can't compete with a long-term potential of an 8 to 10% or 12 or 15% market return. People with these low rates should almost never be in a hurry to pay off the mortgage. Now, if your rate is in the middle, somewhere between 5 and 6.5%, closer to 7%, this is going to be a gray area because the spread between your guaranteed return and potential market returns is going to be smaller. Here, the decision depends more on your potential risk tolerance because a hybrid approach, splitting the extra money 50-50, can be a very smart strategy. If your rate is a higher 7% or higher than 7%, okay, so he says so it's $6.40 for $1,000. Okay, so I was off by some numbers, by some zeros, but it's still so that's like $64 for every $10,000, which is very shitty money because when we did the dividend rotation strategy last year, we turned $1,000 into $3,000. We were hitting the numbers last year. I was telling y'all like, bro, you can get this, and I was getting it too. I was getting it. So back to it. If you're looking at a 7% interest rate or higher, the tables are going to turn because a guaranteed risk-free return of 7 or 8% is extremely attractive, and it starts to match or even beat the long-term average of the stock market, but without the risk. So for a homeowner with a high interest mortgage, prioritizing extra payments is a very, very smart move when you have very, very high interest rates on your house. So you have to know your numbers. Your mortgage rate is the benchmark against whichever other every other potential investment should be measured against. So without knowing it, you're flying blind. The math is the core of this decision, but it is not the whole story. There are other powerful forces at play that can dramatically tilt the scale. Two of the biggest are going to be inflation and taxes. Here's a hidden catalyst: the inflation arbitrage. And this is going to be the concept the wealthy understand instinctively. When you have a long term fixed rate mortgage, you have a secret weapon working for you, which is inflation. Most people think of inflation as a bad thing. Prices go up, your money buys less. But when you have a fixed rate loan, inflation is your best friend. Why? Because you are paying back your loan with dollars that are worth less and less over time. So think about it. Your mortgage payment of $2,500 fixed rate for 30 years, but your income isn't. Over the next 30 years, your salary will likely raise. The price of everything will raise, but your mortgage payment stays the same. That $2,500 payment that feels significant today will feel much smaller in 20 years. Your borrowed value dollars from the bank today, and you get to pay them back over 3 decades with cheaper, fewer future dollars. He said, "No, you're right on." I was trying to hit it. I was trying to hit it. I was trying because I'm just like, man, it ain't enough. It ain't worth it. It is not worth it. To throw the money into a bank account. It is not worth it. I put the money I put into a bank account is the money that I don't want to have in my wallet when I decide to travel. That way the feds can't take it. Because if I got $10,000 in a bank account that I can withdraw out of an ATM machine in Panama, then I just got to call the bank in Panama and say, hey, I'm in a bank, I'm at XYZ branch doing this, I'm trying to do, let me get. And I can fly to the other country. Yeah, I'm gonna pay currency exchange rates or whatever, but I get to draw that money out over there and not get robbed by the feds. And since they hard up for money right now because the feds are not getting the funding that they're supposed to get, and they were furloughed, and the ones that weren't furloughed went back to work, but nobody got an income, they will rob me and say drug money. Yeah, that's okay. I got a money order. Now, what I just explained to you guys a moment ago was the inflation arbitrage. So when you rush to pay off your mortgage, you're doing the bank a massive favor by letting them off the hook. And there's a hidden trap here. It is the incredible shrinking tax myth. So what about the mortgage interest is a deduction? This is going to be one of the most persistent and, for most people, incorrect myths in personal finance. Yes, mortgage interest can be tax deductible, but here's the reality. For the vast majority of homeowners today, this deduction is worth absolutely zero, nothing. And here's why. To get any benefit, you must itemize your deductions, which not a lot of people do. However, recent tax laws dramatically increased the standard deduction. For 2026, the standard deduction for a married couple is projected to be around $30,400. This means that unless all your itemized deductions, your mortgage included with the interest, state and local tax capped at $10,000, and charitable giveaways add up to more than $30,400, you'll just take a standard deduction because it's going to be the better deduction. And if you do that, you get no extra benefits for that mortgage interest that you paid. For example, a couple with a $400,000 mortgage at 6.5% pays about $25,800 in interest in a year. Adding that maximum $10,000 in state and local taxes, and their total is $35,800. This is more than the $30,400 standard deduction. So they get a extra $5,400 to deduct in the 24% tax bracket. That saves them about $1,300. It's something, but it's not a windfall. And as the loan gets paid down, the interest portion drops. And this benefit disappears completely for most people within a few years. The idea that you should keep the mortgage just for tax breaks is, for the average American, a complete myth. The ultimate factor, which is the liquidity lifeline, recognizing that if inflation and taxes are the hidden variables, the ultimate reason to rethink the strategy is going to be the liquidity. So we touched on this with Fruit and Penny story, but it's the single most underrated part of the financial security. Wealth isn't just your net worth. It's about having options. It's about resilience, and liquidity is what gives you your options. So when your money is in an investment account, it's liquid. You can access it in days to deal with an emergency or seize an opportunity. Job loss, medical bills, once in a lifetime investment. Your liquid assets are your army ready to be deployed. When your money is locked up as home equity, it's illiquid, trapped. Accessing it requires a lengthy and uncertain process. A HELOC or cash out refinance isn't guaranteed. It depends on your income, your current credit levels, your credit scores, and the bank's mood. Selling is even more drastic. And when I talk about the bank's mood, with all the volatility that's going on right now, the bank is less likely to do things for you that they would have done had we not been in chaos, right? Being house rich and cash poor is one of the most vulnerable positions that you can be in. It's the appearance of wealth with the reality of fragility. And this is one of the reasons why I tell women all the time that you're not looking to date a guy with an expensive car and an expensive house that's not paid off because they've got expensive debts that they can't afford to cover. And that means that they can't afford to cover your decisions, which means that yeah, this stuff look nice. Yeah, it'll look nice with you being seen it with it being in the background of your Instagram feed, but you don't benefit from him looking rich. You benefit from him being rich. So a dude that's driving a 1986 Toyota Supra that inherited his house from his father, probably more attractive because he's got plenty of money because he don't owe nobody nothing. Yeah, he might have a mortgage. Yeah, he might have car repair, but his overall the overhead is extremely low. So true financial freedom isn't just about zero debt. I know that the old school folks believe that zero debt is the best way to go. It is about having maximum control over your capital. And you can't control capital that's locked inside of your house. So if all this is starting to make you rethink what you thought you knew about your mortgage, that's good. That's the whole point. And if you want to run these numbers for your own specific situations, I'm going to be creating a calculation, like a mathematical calculation thing that does just that for you, where you guys will be able to go and find that in the membership where you can plug and play based on a template, your own numbers, and see two different paths paying off your investment side by side with paying off whatever debt it is that you're trying to deal with. And I encourage you to take that opportunity when you do have time to go into the membership. When I throw this in there, and I should be trying to throw that in there later this week because I do see myself off tomorrow, so I should be able to try to get at least this one in there plus the other three that I was talking about over the last week. And then you'll be able to come back and tell me exactly what the final piece of your puzzle looks like based on your own psychology. Now, so far we've treated this like a pure math problem, but we aren't robots. We're human beings, driven by a complex mix of logic and emotion. The best financial plan in the world is useless if you can't sleep at night while following it. So we have to talk about the psychology of this decision. Because for a lot of people, being in debt is a source of constant low grade anxiety. It feels like a weight on their shoulders. And for these people, the goal isn't to maximize every last dollar, it is to achieve a peace of mind. And for those people, paying off the mortgage is a huge psychological victory. The day they make that final payment, the weight is lifted. They own their own home free and clear, own their own car free and clear. All their credit cards are at a zero balance. And no bank can ever take their assets away. That feeling of security is priceless, makes it worth more to them than an extra money that would be coming from something else, like the stock market, could ever make them feel. And that's perfectly valid choices. I don't knock that for nothing. If you're highly debt averse, the guaranteed return of mental peace might be the best investment that you can make. However, there's another psychological profile, the investor and the builder. This person sees the low interest mortgage not as a burden, but as leverage, as a tool. They're comfortable with the calculated risk of the market because they have a long term view. A 20% drop in their portfolio doesn't cause panic. They see it as a buying opportunity. For this person, the thought of letting their capital sit dormant as dead equity is what causes anxiety. It feels like a massive squandered opportunity. Having their wealth liquid, growing, and compounding is what provides a sense of security. For them, security isn't a paid for house. It's a $1 million investment portfolio that can fund anything life can throw at them and any style of life that they choose and take over the payments on the house. So you have to be honest with yourself about which person you are. What is your true risk tolerance? So here's a quick test for you. Imagine you have an extra $50,000. Scenario A, you pay down your 5% mortgage with it uh, saving $2,500 a year in interest guaranteed. That's your option A. Option B, you invest it. In the next year, the market crashes 30% and your $50,000 is now worth $35,000. How does that make you feel? If your stomach just dropped, you might lean more towards paying off uh, personality. If you shrugged the thought of it, time to buy more, you're an investor at heart. Finally, there's the angle of concentration risk because for many people, their house is their only significant access. So buying aggressively, paying it off, they're doubling down, putting 80 or 90% of their net worth into a single piece of property on a single street in a single city. That's the opposite of diversification. A local economic downturn or a natural disaster could have a devastating impact on their entire financial life. Because if the market crashes and the houses in your neighborhood lose value, the money you put into the house is lost too, because the house is a growth stock. The house doesn't pay you dividends unless you're renting it out. Nobody ever thinks about it like that. You're paying 500 something $1,000 on a $400,000 house is not going to have $500,000 of asset in the house. The most the house is going to be worth is what it can be sold for, and the most equity you can get out of it is 80% of that. So if your house can be sold for $400,000, the most you're going to get out of it is $300,000, but you're going to be paying almost $700,000 over 30 years for it. Yeah, that part. The investor, by contrast, spreads that risk across hundreds of companies and countries, which provides a different and arguably more robust kind of psychological security. All right. So we've covered a ton of ground. We've gone through the math, the traps, and the psychology. Now let's pull it all together into simple frameworks that you can use to make the right decision. And this isn't a one size fit all answer because it's a hierarchy of priorities. There's a non negotiable that you have to pay attention to. And I tell you guys that you always must focus on your non negotiables. Okay. Before you even think about making an extra mortgage payment, you must do these three things first. These are not optional. Build an emergency fund. You need 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses in at least a high yield savings account. And this is going to be your immediate liquidity that is going to be used as your shield against small, insignificant crises. Pay off all high interest debt. We're talking about using good debt like a mortgage, credit card debt, and personal loans. Anything over 10%, that's bad debt. It's a cancer to your finances. The guaranteed return of paying off a 22% credit card is unbeatable. Annihilate that debt, but not by sacrifice. And I should do a whole show talking about the difference between credit card debt versus investment opportunities because you don't want to throw all of your money without putting anything into your brokerage account, but you do want to pay more onto your credit card than what you put on your credit card so that you bring your debt down every month while still investing in yourself somewhere else. You want to be able to split the money somewhere. The next thing you want to do is you want to get a full 401k match if your employer offers a match. You must contribute enough to get all of the 100% match that your employer is willing to add. This is a 100% risk free instant return. Nothing competes with that type of option. Once you have done these three things, and only then can you decide what to do with your house, right? Now, after you do that, here's going to be a simple decision tree. Case one, the young accumulator. You're in your 20s and 30s with a long time horizon and a mortgage rate under 6%. Your default action should probably be to invest. Your greatest asset is going to be time, and letting your money compound in the market has the potential to create vastly more wealth than the interest that you're going to save by paying off the house early. So if you're 20 or 30 years old, you want to go ahead and run that race. Case number two, mid career balancers. Steven, you're 36. I'm 41, going on 42. If you're in your 40s or your early 50s with the rates in the 5 to 6.5% gray area, a 50-50 split is an excellent strategy. Send half of your extra cash to investments to keep building your liquid assets, and the other half to the mortgage to speed up your debt freedom date. It's a balanced hedge approach. Now, case three, the pre retirees. You are, like Michael, within 10 years of your retirement or past your retirement. Your goal shifts from growth to preservation. Here's the argument for paying off the mortgage that becomes very strong. Eliminating that monthly payment before you stop working provides incredible stability and reduces how much you need to withdraw from your portfolio later on, unless you have an all growth portfolio, or not an all growth, an all dividend paying portfolio stock. If you have a 100% dividend paying stock set up for your retirement years, and your retirement years, your dividends are paying more than the standard of living, including your mortgage, ride the wave and put everything on your brokerage account, in my personal observation. Because if you're making more money off of the 18 to 20% return on investment from your brokerage account than the 6% guarantee on the house, you can quit your job and live off of your assets, then do that. Do that, because the brokerage account pays for the house. Do that. Case number four, the high rate holder. If you have a mortgage rate of 7% or higher, regardless of your age, the math is going to be clear. Prioritizing paying down that mortgage. A guaranteed risk of 7% or more return is a phenomenal deal that is tough to beat anywhere. The portfolios that I put into the membership, that's a little over 12, closer to 15 average, is not much higher than the 7 after taxes. So this framework should give you a logical starting point. Combining the math of your interest rates with the reality of your life stage. So for generations, we've been told a simple story: debt is bad, and paying off the home is the ultimate prize. But that story is dangerously incomplete. It leaves out the opportunity cost, inflation arbitrage, and the critical importance of illiquidity. The number one financial mistake that smart, responsible homeowners make is blindly following this old script. It's paying off a 3% mortgage while ignoring a stock market that averages more than 10%. It's locking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in dead equity, leaving yourself vulnerable. It's choosing the feeling of security over the ability to structure it off. Your mortgage isn't a punishment, it is a financial tool. Used correctly, it can be the most powerful leverage that you will ever get to build reality on. And it is going to give you the ability to create generational wealth. The goal isn't just to be debt free, the goal is to be financially free as well. And this means having options, liquidity, and assets working for you around the clock. So ask yourself this important question: is your financial strategy building you a fortress of freedom, or are you just building yourself a very comfortable and very expensive prison? You let me know what you think in the comments. and what you've decided to do with your own mortgage once you get one. And if tonight's show challenges your thinking, do me a favor and hit the subscription button if you haven't already done so. Make sure that you like the show and hit the notification buttons for the upcoming shows that we're going to be doing, because we've got many more deep dives just like this one to help you guys build real, lasting wealth that will be able to be recycled for generations to come. Now, that was a little bit shorter than normal, but it was still a pretty decent and thickly involved topic. There's so many different things that we can do. Like Michael said, there's so many different things that we can do. And it really requires us to really look at the alternatives, weighing the pros and cons of every decision before we get in there, and then taking action that benefits our long term. And this is why I tell you guys, building your 20, 30-year plan. Because yes, there are many ways to pay the house off in the shortest period of time. But how many ways can you have in 30 years a long-standing wealth scenario? If it makes you feel comfortable to go be a trucker and pay your house off in 8 years and then have the profits from your tenant and the profits from your trucking company putting money into your brokerage account for another 20 years, that's fine. But if you found value and letting your tenant pay for the house while you're not using it, and you build your brokerage account while you're not using the house, then when you retire and your tenant moves out of the house, you now have a house paid off and you have a portfolio with multiple millions of dollars in it where you don't have to work, even if the house isn't paid off. If your tenant moved out after 30 years of you putting all of your money into your brokerage account because your house was paid for by somebody else, you can find yourself in a situation where whatever wasn't paid for the house after 20 years, when you retire, you can pay it off your brokerage account. And then you don't have to worry about where your money's coming from. You can still take the extra money that's not covering your standard of living and either reinvest it or put it in a different investment opportunity, because reinvesting it into the brokerage account gives you a larger principal, which gives you more dividends back, or you can reinvest it into gold and silver and other assets that can gain capital. You can reinvest it into Bitcoin. And then special shout out to Jesse Talks. Going to a political conversation tomorrow. Who you gonna be debating with? And these are gonna be the things that we have to discuss so that we can um, build our 20-year plan so that we can find ourselves in a peaceful state of mind in our retirement. You want to be able to roll out of bed with nothing to do, nowhere that you have to go, no stress on your plate, and you're taking time out of your day, eating your breakfast, sipping on your coffee, and thinking about where do I want to invest my money and what do I want to accomplish today, or making plans this month to do something next month and taking that investment with you. That's where we're trying to get. It says, I expect some wins and some losses, and I'm mostly looking to show up and have fun. We're endorsing a candidate for office, two different guys named Paul. Based on what you're telling me, Jesse, there's a 100% chance that Paul is going to win. Since everybody is named Paul. Well, but look at the bright side though, John. You don't have a bunch of people named John. So Jesse, there's nobody there. There's a bunch of people there not named John. Because it's like, well, John number one and John number two. Paul will win. It's just politics. They're rolling the dice. Now, you're going to be at that talk. Are you going to be the one talking? Or are you supporting the person that's going to be talking? That's a clear observation. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe while we're here tonight, y'all. Um, I wish you the best of luck if you're going to be out there talking. I know you don't need it because you're a well-spoken individual. I think you're going to be able to knock this out of the park, is my personal observation. Um, I haven't been since college. I have not been involved in political debates. Um, specifically because the I'm not really as interested in politics as I am interested in the survival after the implementation of politics, which I know some political activists strongly believe that you should be more involved in politics than the aftermath. But I do not vote in the same direction as the masses. I don't vote popularity. I don't vote by brand, meaning I'm not going to vote Republican because I'm Republican, and I'm not going to vote Democrat because I'm Democrat. I'm going to vote for what benefits my finances. And the problem is that not a lot of people do that. A lot of voters vote because they know who the person is, and that's one of the reasons why so many politicians do so many campaigns, because I know of that person because I've seen him on TV, I've seen him on a billboard, I've heard his voice on the radio, but you don't know who the person is. Others might vote just based off of affiliation. Well, he's a Republican, I'm gonna vote Republican. He's a Democrat, I'm gonna vote Democrat. And then others might actually pay attention to the policies that are there, and they might not like a policy, like we didn't like abortion, so we didn't vote for Camilla Harris. Um, but and we would vote against the policy even though the other person might have less stuff benefiting us than the person that voted for the one policy we didn't like. So you have to really look at, a lot of people don't think that, well, you got to vote where your money's going first and foremost. And then you got to start paying attention to everything else. So I don't really do a lot of discussions on politics. Well, I mean, no, I talk a lot about politics, but I don't really like argue the political side of things. I argue the financial side of politics, how it impacts the bottom 25%, how it impacts the 50%, because those are the people that there's more people less than $50,000 a year, less than $75,000 a year, that gets hurt by political decisions than the people that are Republicans, true Republicans. And true Republicans make more than 100,000 a year. They make more than 150,000 a year. Those are the ones, big business, where everything is in the name of a trust or a multi-million dollar company. Those individuals benefit from Republican decisions. But the rest of us that are either food stamps, public school with a free lunch program, special housing programs, those of us that are in that scenario, whether we vote Republican or not, we are living a democratic lifestyle. Jesse says, I'm supporting one candidate and he is being smeared last minute. Oh shit, I hate smear can. Well, you know what happens is the candidate with the most positive political points typically gets hit with a smear campaign, because if they cannot devalue your logic, reason, your platform, your your whole reason for showing up, they have to destroy your reputation. He said there's other things that we are debating, and there are a few people that hate my guts. I speak my mind and don't care who disagrees with. Well, that's going to be a thing, though, bro. If you are true to believing what you're saying, it doesn't matter if they hate your guts. Some people are not going to like you because you are more charismatic. They're not going to like you because you are more direct. They're not going to like you because they want to win the discussion, but they don't have any information to do that. When you're right, and when you're wrong, plain and simple. And sometimes people just want to feel better that even though they're wrong, they're right about something else. You could be talking about how a political position could be completely destroying the infrastructure of our society. But if somebody else can get you to agree that 30-inch chrome rims on a Tesla looks good, they won that portion of the debate. And if you tell them how stupid it is to spend $150,000 for a car that gives you less performance than a $15,000 car, and then you're going to put 30-inch rims on it, which devalues the performance of the car before we even start talking about compromising the monetary value, and it's overpriced the repairs to make that happen, and then there's going to be even more repairs on it, and how idiotic that whole decision is, the person's not going to like you, bro. And there's nothing that you can do about that. You just got to recognize that once they get emotionally invested in a discussion that does not involve emotions, they need to withdraw from the conversation. And they stay in the conversation, they already lost. So there's nothing to debate. Soon as you recognize that they're emotionally invested, it's like, well, I can see where your feelings are, sir. So at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and step out of the conversation. Is that I'm one of the youngest ones. Oh, bro, people are not gonna like you because you're younger than them and smarter than them at the same time. They're gonna be intimidated all the way around because you did more research than that. You do realize that the newcomer is going to be more skilled than the legend because the legend doesn't have to train. The legend doesn't have to practice. The legend doesn't have to improve. The legend is a legend. The new guy has to create. They have to make themselves the one that becomes that legend by having something to prove. The new guy is going to know more than everybody else there just to be considered equal. Yeah, you're going to piss off everybody in the room. Is it? Some people hate how uh, anti-establishment I am. But I don't. Okay, so I don't really believe a lot of the times that you're gonna come from a more anti-establishment position as opposed to the I would say more to the max. I don't know your entire political position, but I can say that you being a young generation is going to not come from anti-establishment, but more anti-traditional behaviors. Because certain things that used to work 40, 50, 70 years ago is not going to work today. And that means that you have to tear down that infrastructure and rebuild something else. And that might be misrepresented as anti-establishment because you're saying that the way we used to do shit back in the day doesn't benefit anybody today. It might have benefited people back in the day, but even the wealthy that used to benefit from that back in the day don't benefit from it today. So we shouldn't do that. And that means that now where anti-establishment comes in, we need to tear all that shit down and build something else. That logic is just, rational modern thinking, but traditional, anti-traditional behavior. What we used to always do that always worked for the old folks, that ain't working for the young bucks. And the young bucks are taking over the country. You're 20, 30 years old. You're going to be in 30 years them. Hopefully, if you're still in politics over the next 30 years, that you don't forget where you are today and you remember when the new guys come in and outthink you, that you maintain that open mind and say, let me see what you can do, young blood. Because when I was in your position, I changed the world. So hopefully you're now where I was 30 years ago, that you changed the world with me. He said, my boss is a top official in the party, and I also need to represent him well. He trusts me, and I am thinking through a plan that come up last minute. So since you're representing him, one of the worst things that you can do is get into an unnecessary argument over political position. Since you're representing him, you talk about all of his points, you talk about his position, you talk about all of his platform, and then when people start sliding into their emotions and then devaluing you as a person or devaluing him as a person and trying to go down a smear campaign, that's like I told you earlier. Acknowledge the fact that they have strayed away from logic, reason, and facts and slid into their emotions and their feelings, and you will maintain your position with discussing the facts, not feelings. And if he has no other facts to discuss with you, then you will end the conversation here. You could talk about my mama, whatever the case may be. I see that you're in your feelings right now. I'm talking about the facts. I'm not talking about my legacy. The facts of this campaign got nothing to do with my legacy. If you don't agree with the facts, you don't have to agree with the facts. If you're not willing to talk about the facts, I'm not willing to talk about my legacy, so we can end the conversation here. That's all it is. By maintaining the high ground and acknowledging psychologically, I won as soon as you said my mama. I don't need to even try to argue the position no more. You know what I mean? We don't have to start yelling and cussing at one another and nothing like that. I just acknowledge that you have nothing else to say when you are trying to devalue me as a person. So in that situation, I just pull the plug on the conversation, and that will prevent your uh candidate that you're representing from ending up with a um negative point of view from someone in his cabinet simply because somebody else says something stupid. Because now we're dealing with, you're living a lifestyle of guilty by association. And that's the kind of lifestyle. And this is what I tell women on a regular basis. Um, Guilty by association is going to mean that anybody in your party that does something irresponsible, you inherently did something irresponsible because that person is part of your group and you selected that person to be part of your group. So when you're in a relationship with somebody that does irresponsible things, you are, as a man, guilty by association. So when she starts acting roguish, if she starts doing coyote ugly dancing against the wall kind of behavior, her devalued behavior devalues your integrity as a man because that is the person you chose to come here with. That is the person you chose to be with. That person represents you. And if she doesn't do a good job of representing you, then you did a bad job of selecting. And if you have a bad decision making position, then that means I can't trust you to make good decisions in business, which means that you're going to lose good deals because of your being guilty by association. And this goes far beyond girlfriends. This is actually your kids can do something stupid and destroy your political career, your grandkids, your brother, your auntie, your uncle, your father. Somebody in your family can do something corrupt and destroy your political career. Your reputation is guilty by association. And the more popular you are, the more the press digs into your personal life to try to find somebody that knows you so that they can make you guilty by association. He said there are two things on. One, there's a race between two Pauls, and I support one of them. And two, my boss, uh, he said my boss is a party official. He'll show up late due to travel, so rules need to be changed to let him in. Oh, well, that's good because you're going to be there in the forefront, and as you show up in the beginning, you're able to give a positive representation of your candidate, the person that you're representing, and then you're able to turn back around and make sure that when he does get there, you're not dealing with a negative fallout from when he gets there late. So rep him well. So that when he shows up, he's got a big spotlight on him. If you can give him big shoes to fill, he's going to be very proud of you. I know I'm proud of you. I know I'm proud of you. But you guys got like a two-part episode. Y'all get to go in there and make it work. And I'm glad to see that. Um, on our way out, because we ran out of we walked through a lot of the information that we had. I'm gonna let you go, Jesse. I want to wish you the best of luck. Um, to let me know how it goes. So whenever you guys finish doing what you're doing, whatever details that you can release, without getting yourself compromised, make sure that you let me know how, at least how you felt about it, and if you achieved your goals, because I know that there's a level of secrecy you got to have. So I respect that, and then we'll follow up on you. I want to thank you guys before we go, ladies. As long as the situation doesn't make sense. Oh, anytime, sir. I always got wise words for to the best of my ability, at least. But you got to remember, though, Jesse, a wise man made jackass decisions in a younger days. So the smarter I am today, the more reckless I was when I was younger. So I take pride in learning from the mistakes of myself and the people that was around me decades ago. And I take pride in encouraging people not to make the same mistakes that I used to make back in the day. And I encourage people now to prioritize their long-term goals, because really short-term gratification does not make you feel good in the long term. So I want to make sure that everybody has the ability to pay attention to the future, because the future becomes your present faster than you know it, and in the moment today, that's going to be long in your past. So I want to make sure that we reach the goals that we aim for by making the right decisions. So on our way out, I want to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give you all this information to make y'all higher value men by finding the things in your life that you can control and changing the things that you don't like, you are capable of improving your life in a fashion where you can then navigate around the things that you cannot control. People being assholes and not liking your positions and then disliking you because you can outtalk them in a conversation. These are things you can't control, but navigating how to communicate with them and appropriately and professionally remove yourself from those conversations prevents you from getting into a spat that can then be used against you down the line. That's why I gave you this information. Now, ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can use this information to make yourselves higher value women by, again, finding where you want to be at in your 20 or 30-year goals, the expectations of the details that leads to the cost that you can reverse engineer down to what you have to do today to get to where you want to be at tomorrow. And then proactively put forth the effort to get to that. By doing this, you can then keep your eyes and ears open for the potential suitor that is there then presenting to you with the good character, the good decision making skills, the good personality, the drive, the ambition, the motivation to reach their goals as well as your goals, where y'all can come together and reach your goals together, and two people can make it to $1 million faster than one, which is why I tell you guys to change the way you do things. Get into it for all the right reasons, not all the wrong reasons. You want to get into it for long term goal success, not short term gratification. Because once the gratification is over, what are you doing with the rest of the day? You got what, 20 minutes worth of gratification, and then you got 23 hours and 40 minutes left of the same day. What are you doing with the rest of the time? Right? So focus on long-term gratification, long-term goals, right? And then you will see a whole new life, a whole new world, a whole new quantity of benefits for yourself and the people around you. Now, with that being said, we got a lot more stuff coming up. Make sure that y'all stay tuned. I want to thank y'all for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground! Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground.